Good afternoon or good evening or good morning. We are making carrot cake. I have all of my ingredients, carrots and walnuts. I broke the walnuts down into smaller pieces. I have oil. I added a little bit of vanilla extract. It wasn't in the recipe. 4 eggs, and then all of your dry ingredients, which includes 9 ounces of bread flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1½ tablespoons of ground cinnamon. Kosher salt is a 1/2 teaspoon, 14 ounces of granulated sugar. Your oil is 6 ounces, and your whole eggs 4, as I mentioned. And I think we had about 1 pound of grated carrots. Okay, so this is going to be a very quick procedure. You don't even need to take a mixer out. You can do this procedure by hand. We are going to use the muffin method. Make sure that you have set your oven to 325 degrees before you start, and prepare your pans. You will be using 8-inch pans. I'm using 6-inch pans. I have an ulterior motive for that. Don't ask, but same procedure. So I prepared my pans, a piece of parchment paper, and spray your pans with a little bit of pan release spray. I covered these in a one of these pan strips that was a handmade one with aluminum foil and a wet paper towel. I will send you the link, Preppy Kitchens, or Preppy Kitchen, and there's a really great video. And this is just to ensure that we don't get dark, crispy edges around our cake. We want them to be kind of soft and moist. So we have that. That's the reason why you see this around here. All right, so I already sifted together all of my dry ingredients. That was the baking soda, baking powder, sugar, cinnamon, and bread flour. And so make sure that those are sifted, and we will discuss in lecture why we have both baking soda and baking powder a little bit later. All right, so that's that. I'm going to, in my pan here, I'm going to whisk together my eggs and my oil. Just give it a quick whisk. So if you recall muffin method, mix wet with dry. It's very, very, very simple. Make sure it's thoroughly incorporated. And now I'm going to go ahead and incorporate my dry ingredients. Now, it appears to be a little thick, and that's fine. Remember, there is a lot of sugar in this recipe, and sugar is hygroscopic, and when it is in place with your with wet ingredients, the oil and the eggs, it's going to, begin to melt. So you'll get something a little bit more liquidy as it cooks. There's also moisture content in your carrots, which I'm now going to add. And if you want to do a fine grate, you can. For the first time in a long time, I did grate by hand because I didn't want to take out a machine. I'm just folding this in with a rubber spatula. Do not use your whisk for this, because your batter will get caught in between your whisk. So that's a big mess. Add my walnuts. And if you want to, you could substitute with pecans. That's up to you. And that's it. So now I will fill my pans. A good practice is to scale your batter. Now I have 2 pans which are the same size. They are 6-inch pans with a 3-inch depth. However, they're 2 different brands, and so one cake pan is going to be heavier than the other. So don't eyeball. Take the time to scale it out and measure so that you have the same amount, okay? So I have, I'm going to actually take a small amount out, and I'll tell you why soon. Because I am going to save a little bit for, I'm going to save a little bit for some muffins, because I can. So I'm going to use 12 ounces in my 6-inch pan, okay? No, I think I'll add a little bit more. I'm sorry, guys. I'm being wishy-washy. I'm gonna do 14 ounces instead. Okay. Come on. 14. And I remember how much this was going to be off. The difference was 1. So, oh shoot. Now, I have that. I'm just gonna add a little bit more to that. I'm pretty certain of my measurements. So now I'm going to put that in the oven, and I'm going to put the rest in the muffin tins, and then we are going to bake this. I'm going to give it about a check at 30 minutes. It's going to take a little bit longer because it has the strips around the cake pans, and that is a temporary kind of cooling off for the cake. So usually when a cake bakes, it's going to bake around the outside first, and then it's going to rise in the center. And that part that begins to bake first is going to set in place, which is why you get that hump that's in the middle. So in order to get some nice even browning on this cake, we have these strips around there, so that kind of makes it take a little bit longer to bake, just a few minutes. I'll give it a check at about 25-30 minutes. I'm going to check it with a skewer. Also, I'm looking for the spring back test to make sure that you know, I've got some a well-baked cake. My carrot cakes are completely baked. Evidence of that is a spring test, a skewer or toothpick test down the center of the cake. Also, you will notice that there's some release and pull away from around the sides of the pan, which is another indicator that the cake is done. That's the proteins in the cake that in the cake batter that coagulate as they bake, so they contract a bit. The remainder of my batter I placed in little cupcakes, cupcake holders, and baked those, and I will also frost and decorate those. So release them from the pan when they're cool and wrap in plastic until we are ready to use.